I stood on my porch that morning, boots caked in red dust, watching a sight so ridiculous it almost made me laugh out loud. A massive black truck, its tires spinning helplessly in the mud, chained to my battered old tractor like some stubborn beast refusing to admit defeat. The steam rising from the tires looked almost like smoke signals. At the center of this mess was Officer Hank, the self-appointed king of the HOA, shouting threats at me from the middle of my field like he owned the place, waving a citation book as if it was a weapon that could actually scare anyone with a spine. "You've made a big mistake, James. A very big one," he yelled, his voice cracking. I didn't respond. I just stepped down from the porch, arms folded, the kind of slow, silent move that says more than 1,000 words could. All around, neighbors were suddenly busy, watering the same patch of grass for the third time that morning, peeking from behind curtains, a couple pretending not to watch, while one person filmed the whole scene from behind a mailbox. Hank's face was as red as the mud swallowing his truck, and for the first time, I saw something close to fear flicker in his eyes. Not fear of me, but the realization that he'd picked the wrong ranch to mess with. And then, from somewhere down the road, a police siren howled, getting closer by the second. If you're wondering how a regular guy like me, just wanting to run cattle and mind my own business, ended up dragging an HOA cop's truck into a mud pit, well, let me back up a sec. About 6 weeks earlier, I just settled into this ranch, 30 acres outside the new development called Whispering Pines. I'm James Walker, Texas-born and raised, but I came out to Colorado for peace and quiet. My life was simple. 2 horses, a dozen cows, a rescue mutt named Bear, and Ellie, my daughter, who visits every weekend. My land butted up against that shiny new HOA neighborhood, but I never signed their rules. I was here first, bought my acres fair and square. Didn't matter. People like Hank, they can't stand not being in charge. Hank was a retired mall cop who traded his rent badge for an HOA logo and a shiny black truck. First time I met him, he slapped a violation notice on my gate about my grass being too long. I nearly laughed in his face. "This is private property," I told him. "I'm not part of your HOA." He just barked back, acting like proximity gave him power. But he didn't back off. Every week, he'd park that truck just over my line, camera in hand, snapping photos like he was filming for National Geographic. One time, I caught him snooping around my barn. That's when I knew this was more than just an annoying neighbor. It was the start of something ugly. I called the sheriff. Daniels, straight shooter, no nonsense. He sympathized but couldn't do much without catching Hank in the act. So, I put up cameras all along the east fence, every inch facing Whispering Pines. And sure enough, every day, there was Hank, sitting for hours. I brought footage to the HOA office and met Denise, their president, sweet as pie on the surface, but as sharp as barbed wire underneath. "He's just ensuring safety," she smiled, ignoring the fact that her guy was trespassing. "I'm sorry you feel that way." So I did what any rancher with a tractor and a grudge would do. I waited for the perfect day, for the mud to soften after the rain, for Hank to park in his favorite spot. As soon as he left his truck to walk to their clubhouse, I hitched that beast to my tractor and dragged it straight into the sloppiest patch of earth I could find. By the time he came back, his fancy black truck was buried up to its axles, stuck for good. You already saw how that played out, but the real show started when the sirens blared and half the county came rolling in. As the dust settled, another black truck pulled up, this one with county plates. Out stepped Commissioner Ray, silver hair, sunglasses, a man you could tell was used to being in charge just by the way he stood. He listened as I told him everything, about the false citations, the trespassing, the videos, the ignored warnings. Hank tried to butt in, blabbering about doing his duty, but Ray shut him up with a look. Then he asked the officers to pull up the camera footage, 17 days in 1 month, every visit logged. That was all it took. Right there, in front of the whole neighborhood, Ray suspended Hank on the spot, promised a full investigation, and made it clear he'd see to it that I was left alone. I thought maybe that'd be the end of it. But that night, Bear started barking like crazy by the gate. I found a note, stabbed into the post with a hunting knife. "This ain't over, cowboy." No name, but I didn't need one. I called Daniels again. He took it seriously. "You need to be careful, James. Men like Hank don't know when to quit." Then came the next twist, graffiti on my barn. "Join the HOA or else," in red paint. tire tracks leading right to my back wall. Now, it wasn't just petty harassment. This was a threat, an ultimatum. I called my friend Rick, a retired Army engineer who knew everything about security, and I called my lawyer. By sunrise, Rick had cameras, lights, even drones set up around the perimeter. We weren't just waiting to get hit anymore. We were ready for whatever they threw next. The following Friday, the new cameras caught them, Hank and two others, sneaking along the fence line in the dark, flashlights darting across the grass. I confronted them, shotgun slung across my back, just to make a point. Hank tried to intimidate me, but the drone buzzed overhead, red light blinking, Rick's voice coming through the speaker. "Smile, you're on county surveillance." They scattered like spooked cattle. I took that footage straight to Denise at the HOA. She tried to play innocent, but the look on her face when she saw Hank on camera, priceless. I gave her a choice: report it herself, or I'd send it to every resident and the police. That night, my irrigation system was cut. Crops started to wilt. Spray painted across the control box. One word: obey. That was it. This wasn't a feud anymore. It was war. So I went old school. Reinforced the fence, fixed the lights, rebuilt my grandfather's old rain trench as a hidden mud trap. Next time Hank rolled in with his shiny truck and his smug new sidekick, some HOA legal intern, they barreled right into the soft clay. When the sheriff showed up, Hank tried to blame me for entrapment. Daniels just shook his head, arrested Hank for trespassing again, and sent the intern packing. But Whispering Pines wasn't done. That night, their lawyer showed up in a fancy car, trying to buy me out. "Generous offer," he said. "No fees for 2 years, all amenities, plus a cash bonus." I laughed in his face. "You can't buy a legacy." He left with a warning: "All fences fall, eventually." Days later, I found legal papers in my mailbox, annexation threats, talk of community access, and zoned expansion. The bank flagged my old barn loan for property risk. The pressure was on. But now, I wasn't alone. Ellie and I canvassed the nearby homes. Turns out, I wasn't the only target. Dozens of neighbors signed our petition, ready to fight back. Then, the lowest blow: my barn caught fire in the middle of a thunderstorm. The sheriff found a gas can behind the hay, and I found a piece of my heart burning with the roof. That was it. No more waiting. Rick and I set up so much surveillance. The ranch looked like a military outpost. I documented everything: photos, videos, letters, the burned barn. Sent it all to the local news, county officials, even a lawyer famous for taking down crooked HOAs. Within days, the story exploded. News trucks at my gate, support pouring in, the county commissioner calling an emergency meeting. Denise resigned. The HOA's expansion plan tanked. My bank reversed the review, and Hank was arrested for arson, caught on camera by his limp and that can of gas. And yet, as the dust settled, I knew it wasn't over. Hank's shadow showed up on my camera, pacing the fence line, desperate and beaten but not gone. More threats came. Anonymous letters, a dead deer with a tag. This is what happens when fences fall. The sheriff stepped up patrols, and I warned Hank and his goons myself. One more step, and it's over. That night, under the glow of floodlights, they came. Hank, two others, bolt cutters in hand. The blue lights of the sheriff's cruiser cut through the night, sirens screaming, men scrambling. Hank tried to run, but landed face first in the same mud pit his truck once found. Cuffed and dragged off, he finally realized the truth. You can't take a man's land if he refuses to kneel. The HOA collapsed. New leadership came in. People who valued peace over power. Donations and volunteers rebuilt our barn. Ellie's blog about our fight went viral. Fenceline Diaries, she called it. Bear got his own feature on the news. And me? I sit on my porch at dusk, watching the sunset, knowing I stood my ground for something that mattered. You know what I mean? In the end, you don't beat a rancher with paper or power plays. You try to break him, he just comes out stronger, covered in a little more mud. But now, let me ask you, was I right to fight back the way I did? Or is there ever a point when standing your ground becomes just another way of starting a war? I'd love to hear where you stand. Drop your thoughts below. What would you have done?